Her name is Daisy. Every morning she sweeps the front entrance spotlessly and gives the flower beds plenty of water. This is the task given to her as a maid of the Weatherwoods family. To be honest, watering the plants is the gardener's job. But in this place, the three of them have to do everything without such distinctions, because the master's wallet is seriously tight. Suddenly, from behind the gate, three men stand there calling out. One of those men says to the Baron that it seems she cannot hear him. Then another notices the head maid coming this way as she walks towards them. The maid asks if Baron Feathergale is here again. He replies that she makes it sound embarrassing for the listener. She tells him the manor is not for sale and asks him to go back. As she turns away, he bumps into her shoulder and calls her insolent, saying he did not come for that today and that he must meet the new Viscount Weatherwoods. She apologizes and says the master is currently out. He says that is the third time he has heard that this month. From what he has seen, only 3 servants ever come out of this manor. He says the village already calls this place the Ghost Manor, and shouts that such a remarkably beautiful estate has been left in a wrecked state. She asks what on earth is the meaning of this rude behavior. He shouts again that he cannot stand it anymore, and says that if his dear friend the Viscount knew this manor had fallen into such ruin, he would be heartbroken. Time sure flies. The head maid thinks to herself that it has already been 4 years since he died in the magic war, and she is starting to miss him. Then the maid politely tells the Baron to leave. The Baron points towards Daisy and orders her to stop standing there like an idiot and come here. He asks how long the new Viscount Weatherwood has been away from this manor, wondering if it has been 2 or 3 years. Daisy replies that he has not been away. The Baron asks if the Viscount's health is very poor, enough that he cannot even come outside. Daisy replies that he is healthy. The Baron says that her former master asked him, his best friend, to look after the new Viscount Weatherwoods, so he wants to fulfill his responsibility, and asks if everything is truly all right with the Viscount. Daisy replies that everything is fine. Suddenly, he becomes furious and shouts that a mere maid is being so insolent. As he lifts his hand to slap her and says she does not even know her place, Daisy suddenly slaps him as hard as she can. The head maid tells Daisy that a maid must always be patient and that she can handle sickly raccoons like them without Daisy lifting a finger. As the Baron stands there shocked, the 2 men beside him say it looks like she knows how to fight while moving closer to attack them. Suddenly, Daisy punches both of them in the face. She calmly says that she is being patient. The head maid asks if Daisy really expects her to believe that right now. Daisy replies that her right hand is just going through a rebellious phase and that she will scold it later in the garden. As she is about to drag them away, Daisy asks if she should bury them around here. The head maid tells her not to say such horrible things and to just leave these people in front of the manor. Daisy then asks, how about cutting off their heads and hanging them as an example? They say another name for a maid is hardship, and in the end, Daisy was sued by the Baron for assault and intimidation. A few days ago, she hears number 38 please come in while waiting in line. The lady greets her nicely and thinks that she is incredibly beautiful. She then asks for her name, and Daisy replies, Daisy Fager. The lady pauses and asks if she said Fager, mentioning that it is the same surname as Andert Fager, the hero of the magic war. Daisy replies that it is a common name. The lady asks about her family members, and Daisy says she has one younger brother. Her height is 170 centimeters, which the lady notes is quite tall for a woman as she writes the details down. She says that it will be an advantage for the job Daisy applied for. Then she asks why Daisy wants to become a maid, and Daisy simply replies money. The lady says good, and asks one final question about what kind of employer she is looking for. Daisy says she wants a mansion so harsh and dreadful that 2 people could work there and not even notice if one of them died. The lady asks if she means an employer who squeezes their servants dry, and Daisy replies that it is just perfect for her goal. The lady suddenly stands up and says Daisy is incredibly lucky because it is rare to find a job this quickly. She explains that the mansion is located in the bustling district and belongs to one of the most prestigious families in the empire. She says it is an honor to work in such a place. As she hands Daisy the dress, she tells her to remember just one thing, at least last a week before quitting. As Daisy stands in front of the mansion's gate, she thinks the place looks like demons might come out of it. Even the doorbell seems broken. She wonders what she should do and decides to wait for now. 1 hour later, she grabs the gate and shakes it loudly. She wonders if they will come if she waits like this. As the gate rattles, the head maid finally appears and apologizes for being late. She asks if Daisy Fager is here as a maid, and introduces herself as the head maid of the Weatherwood estate. Before letting Daisy inside, she explains that maids normally are not allowed to use the front gate or main entrance but here she can use them and just should not shake the gate like that again. She then asks if Daisy has any luggage. Daisy casually replies, yeah, but the head maid corrects her and says, not yeah, but no, I don't. Daisy immediately corrects herself and replies that she does not. The head maid explains that the master of this estate is Viscount Weatherwoods, and that he is the only person living there. The employees are Daisy, the head maid, and a cook gardener who will arrive in 4 days. She explains that the salary is paid on the 1st of every month, and that work starts at 6 a.m. and ends at 7 p.m. As she shows Daisy around, she introduces her room and says it is probably the only maid's room this large. She tells Daisy to change her clothes and come to the first floor entrance hall shortly after. Then she gives her one final warning, saying there is only one thing she must remember. She must never enter the master's room. If anyone asks where he is, she should simply say he is out. Daisy silently nods, but the head maid tells her not to just nod and to answer properly. Daisy then replies yes. As Daisy falls onto the bed, she thinks that this place is livable enough. While working here without drawing attention, she must find those items within the next 3 years. Otherwise, she will die. As she starts working, she realizes she is really going to die, because this is a crazy house. The head maid tells her that things go faster with 2 people, and compliments her great stamina and quick thinking. She says it was worth spending a fortune to bring Daisy here. Daisy thinks that no wonder the interviewer looked at her like a golden pig. As the head maid looks out the window, she notices the time and says they should stop for today and have dinner. As Daisy tastes the food, she makes a terrible face and says it is bad. The head maid immediately tells her to keep those thoughts to herself because she is not the cook. Then she admits honestly that she has seen countless maids pass through the Weatherwoods family, but a maid like Daisy is a first. She asks Daisy how she ended up becoming a maid. Daisy falls into her thoughts, wondering how she really ended up doing this job. The head maid notices her silence and says that if it is hard to answer, she does not have to say anything, because everyone has their own story, and everyone carries at least one sorrow in their heart. Daisy thinks that she was originally about to say it was because she had no home and no money. But if she revealed she was completely broke, they might treat her even more like a slave. Contrary to her expectations, the next day after dinner, she closed her eyes for just a moment, and suddenly, it was already the next day. The day after that, she felt like a cow from all the exhausting labor. Then, on the 3rd day of those grueling days, while she was sleeping, he finally showed up. As he stabs the knife right next to her face into the pillow, he tells her to get up. He says that if she wants to live, she has to follow his orders. From now on, she is a spy who must monitor the movements of Viscount Weatherwoods and report regularly. Daisy asks why, which confuses the man for a moment. He asks if she is still half asleep and starts saying that if she wants to live, but before he can finish, Daisy grabs him by the mouth and pulls something out. She calmly says that, as she thought, here it is. A merciful mouthful. It is a suicide pill favored by the Assassination Information Guild. As the man turns around, Daisy is already standing there holding a cloth, while once again asking why. The man starts shivering. After the man is completely tied up, he says that she is not an ordinary maid, and asks what her identity is. Daisy simply asks why again. The man explains that he merely took on a request that came to the guild. As for why he needed to monitor Viscount Weatherwoods, Daisy asks about the client. He replies that he does not know. Daisy then asks how many spies there have been before him. From what he has heard, he says at least 3. Daisy realizes something and thinks that she always found it strange. The work was tough, but not enough for maids to keep running away one after another. She asks what happened to the previous maids. The man says he does not know either, because his role was simply to extract an oath of obedience from the maids. He was not involved in anything beyond that. Daisy realizes that he used that magical tool to extract an oath from the maids. An oath is a forbidden magic that uses the soul as collateral. Those who break it have their souls destroyed and meet their death, meaning the maids probably did not run away at all. They died. Daisy wonders what on earth there is to find out about the Viscount for someone to go this far. The man desperately begs her to spare him, saying that after failing even suicide, he will become a fugitive for life. He promises never to appear before her again, and swears not to utter a word about her. If necessary, he even offers to take an oath of obedience. Daisy suddenly slaps the man and says there is no need. She wonders if she should kill him, but then remembers what the head maid said. As she quietly looks outside, she falls into thought. The next morning in the kitchen, the head maid is drinking tea when she mentions that it is noisy outside. She says it looks like someone is moving in, and finds it surprising because it has not even been long since the Asla family moved out, yet someone is already moving in again. Daisy becomes confused and thinks that she thought the house was empty. Suddenly, Daisy walks away, causing the head maid to ask where she is going. Daisy casually replies urine. The head maid immediately tells her to use more refined expressions for things like that. Daisy admits that she was careless. As she runs outside to take a look, she sees the assassin sitting there idly. She wonders why he is acting like that. Then she notices another man nearby and wonders who he is. She immediately realizes that in this neighborhood, he is definitely not an ordinary person. Daisy decides she has no choice but to give up on the assassin and completely forget about yesterday's incident. Just then, that dark-haired man approaches and introduces himself as the gardener and cook, starting from today. His name was Lou, and it was Daisy's first meeting with him. Daisy says he should be fired. The head maid asks who she is talking about and wonders if Daisy means herself. Daisy replies no and says that suspicious person should be fired. The head maid asks if she means Lou. Daisy says yes and insists that he is certainly not an ordinary person in many ways. The head maid replies that it is not good to judge people so hastily and points out that Daisy herself is just as unique as Lou. Daisy replies that even so, she does not think she is at a level to be compared to him. She thinks that just looking at him makes him insanely suspicious. How can a person possibly be that beautiful? Even that strange blue hair looks glamorous, thanks to his perfectly harmonious features and those golden eyes that resemble the sea glistening under sunlight. Even his languid and sunken gaze is striking. His appearance alone is enough to cause mental shock just by looking at him. Then there is his personality. Lou introduces himself and asks how he should address the head maid. The head maid tells him he can simply call her the head maid. Lou responds by confirming that she is the cook and gardener. The head maid awkwardly replies yes and apologizes because she keeps repeating the same thing. Lou casually says that he understands it must be hard to believe that someone as blindingly beautiful as him would become a cook for such a dying mansion or manage a garden that looks like a dump, but she should accept it because it is the truth. Daisy is shocked that he just called it a dying mansion and insulted the garden too. Then Lou looks at Daisy and asks about this one. The head maid explains that she is the maid. Lou asks if her name is Maid and comments on how original it is. Then he says he looks forward to working with her, Miss Maid the maid. The head maid quietly suggests to Daisy that they should keep an eye on him for a while, although she thinks the only suspicious thing about him is his handsome face. Daisy thinks the head maid is being far too naive. The assassin she caught at dawn was already by Lou's side, and on top of that, he lives directly across from the Weatherwoods mansion. That means he must be a spy sent to monitor Viscount Weatherwoods. The head maid tells Daisy to stop thinking about that and clean the handprints off the window instead. Daisy keeps thinking that no matter how she looks at it, Lou and the assassin are clearly working together. But she cannot tell the head maid, because then she might ask how Daisy knows all this and begin suspecting her too. Then Daisy might get kicked out of even this strange household. Besides, the head maid has already become a complete slave to capitalism in this era. She has completely fallen for Lou after he agreed to work for half wages and even offered to restore the garden using his own money. Daisy thinks money is truly dangerous because it prevents people from clearly exposing a spy threatening the master's daily life. At times like this, she feels she should have a physical conversation with that guy to force the truth out of him. Suddenly, Lou asks if she has something to say. Daisy directly asks who he really is. Lou replies that if she is asking for his name, he already said it is Lou, Miss Maid, the maid. Daisy clarifies that she is not asking about his name, but about who he really is. Lou teasingly asks if that means she wants to know him more deeply. He says he does not think they are at that stage yet. Daisy tells him to stop acting like a snake and answer properly. She asks who he is and why he came here. As he leans closer, he whispers into her ear that he is her fan. He mentions how she caught someone last night and tied him up inside his house. Seeing her boldly lock up a complete stranger was very impressive. Daisy asks if he entered the mansion because of that. Before she can continue, Lou suddenly shouts for the head maid and loudly complains that Miss Maid the maid is slacking off and hitting on him. Daisy immediately thinks that not only is he suspicious, but he is also mean and petty enough to drag the head maid into this. The head maid appears and says she thought she heard the word slacking somewhere, but she must be mistaken. She reminds Daisy that only those who work hard get to enjoy a delicious dinner. Daisy works hard after hearing that, but the dinner that night is still tasteless. Then the story returns to the present. Someone asks what happened to the lawsuit. To begin with the conclusion, the Baron dropped the charges. The investigation into Daisy Fager's identity was separated from the case. Lou says it is fine because it is out of their hands now. Daisy admits there are more than one or two things bothering her. But the biggest problem is wondering if Lu killed the Baron and buried him. Lu tells Miss Daisy that she should not say things like that anywhere. He then explains that in situations like this, people usually say something like, "You helped me today, so I will carve today's deed into my bones and never forget it until I die. As a token of gratitude, I will become your slave, so please let me lick the top of your foot, master." Then he asks if they should try it. Daisy thinks to herself that this guy really has already settled in completely. As the two men watch them walking away, one of them asks if they are really just going to let them leave like that, while the other asks what else they are supposed to do, since they received orders from the top brass to investigate Daisy's past regardless of the Baron's case. But now that the Baron has withdrawn the charges, they cannot continue investigating even if they want to. One of them admits that the whole situation was strange, especially after the Baron caused such a huge scene earlier, and wonders if there is something more to this, mentioning that Daisy might be one of the few survivors of Queen Island. Meanwhile, Lu calls out to Miss Daisy and says he does not believe he received a proper thank you yet. He says surely she is not the type to be worse than a dog, because even a dog knows how to repay kindness. Annoyed, Daisy forces herself to say thank you, but Lu replies that if she is truly thankful, then she should pay him back. Daisy immediately says she does not have any money, but Lu explains that it is not about money. From now on, she should stop doing such reckless things and always use her head before her body. He also tells her that if she ever finds herself in a situation where she has to dispose of a body, she should tell him first, casually asking how that sounds and saying it should be easy enough. Daisy immediately asks why on earth she should do that. Suddenly, the head maid comes rushing over and asks if they are both all right, explaining that she had no idea the Baron would press charges so quickly. Lu calmly replies that as she can see, they are perfectly fine. The head maid explains that she considered it self-defense and intended to settle everything within the family, but they were simply too relentless. Then she suddenly notices the time and apologizes to Lu before asking if he could help with dinner. Lu replies that if the head maid herself is asking, then of course he will help. As the two of them walk off together, Lu says he will show off a bit of his skill just for her, and the head maid happily replies that she would like to see what he can do. Daisy becomes extremely annoyed and thinks that at this rate the head maid is going to fall for his act all over again, so she reminds herself to stay alert. As Lu prepares dinner, he places a plate in front of the head maid and tells her to eat well. Since the only ingredients available were the potatoes he brought himself, he kept the meal simple. The moment the head maid tastes it, she says it is easily the best meal she has had in years and admits it is so delicious that she almost feels guilty for hiring him at half pay. Lu casually comments that if someone had not peeled the potatoes as slowly as a tortoise, he would have mentioned that sooner. Daisy becomes irritated because she cannot even argue since he is right, and she wonders why she was unable to peel the potatoes any faster. The head maid gently tells Miss Daisy to eat slowly because nobody is going to take the food away from her. Daisy then asks Lu how he managed to create this flavor and jokingly asks if he grilled the Baron or roasted him, before questioning why the Baron suddenly dropped the charges. She even wonders if Lu might secretly be a noble of higher rank than the Baron. Lu replies that he is curious why she would assume that, then proudly lists all his qualities by saying he is elegant, dignified, wealthy, considerate, handsome, fit, kind, intellectual, and someone with a very high sense of self-worth. After that, he casually mentions that he is glad Daisy actually knows how to speak in full sentences and tells her to keep chattering like that from now on, instead of cutting off her words like a simpleton. Daisy quietly thinks that perhaps she really does look that way sometimes, but she also wonders if he realizes just how much she hates the fact that he is the reason she is talking so much in the first place. As Lu passes a plate of stew toward her, he notices her expression and asks if that look means she wants his stew too. Daisy immediately grabs the plate and says the stew itself is innocent. Lu then stands up and says that since he has now lost his stew to Miss Daisy, he should probably head out for the day, joking that he will bill them for overtime later. As he leaves, the head maid cheerfully tells him to see her tomorrow. While eating the stew, Daisy admits to herself that it is delicious, but something still keeps bothering her. Working with someone as suspicious as Lu simply does not sit right with her. As she returns to her room, she thinks that she currently has two hypotheses regarding his identity. First, just like the assassin, he may have snuck in to monitor Viscount Weatherwoods. Second, he may know about her past and have specifically chased her down because of it. As she stares out the window, she quietly wonders just how likely the second possibility truly is. As she sleeps, a dream begins. Andert, stop right now. That's an order from the Commander-in-Chief. But Andert replies that he does not need permission, because this is his own decision. Goodbye, Raffaello. As he draws his sword, Raffaello desperately shouts for Fager to come back right now. Suddenly, Daisy wakes up with a headache. She immediately wonders if Lou knows. 14 years ago, when the great magician Mephisto waged war in order to gain immortal power, the one who protected the fate of humanity was the Emperor's sword, Fager. But the truth is that he was actually her, another name for Daisy Fager. One might wonder why the genders are different, but the answer is simple. After her younger brother died in battle defending their hometown, Queen Island, she used ancient magic to transform her body into a man's and lived for years under his name. After killing Mephisto, she believed she had finally met her end, but instead, she returned to life in her original body 4 years later, with only 3 years left to live. Daisy thinks this situation is becoming unbearable because it is ruining her sleep. If she gets fired for oversleeping due to lack of rest, it will only become her loss. She decides she has no choice but to ask Lou directly. As she goes to meet him, she thinks that killing the wall would not have been difficult, but she hesitates over whether she should knock or simply smash it down. Suddenly, Lou asks if she was startled and says that the master told him she would be coming around this time. Daisy becomes confused and asks about the master. Lou explains that he was waiting for her because of him. Daisy internally wonders if Lou has become that guy's butler or something. Lou then says the master told him to pass along a message. If Miss Daisy comes, he should tell her to practice peeling potatoes instead of wasting time coming here. Irritated, Daisy immediately grabs him by the throat, but Lou hurriedly explains that those were not his words, but the master's message. After releasing him, Daisy asks if the two of them are working together. Lou points out that she was the one who locked him up there, and says that just like the master predicted, she really must have amnesia or something. He further explains that he is staying there of his own free will. Daisy says she cannot really trust him while he is dressed like that. Lou admits that may be true, but he simply submitted himself willingly. He explains that it is only natural for the weak to submit to the strong. Daisy would not understand, but according to him, the master is an incredibly terrifying man. He then reveals that the estate itself is covered in high-level magic that prevents outsiders from looking inside. Since he can escape the guild surveillance there, he decided to lie low and focus on surviving for the time being. Daisy becomes surprised after hearing that the estate possesses such advanced magic. Not only was it magic so high level that even she failed to detect it, but the master was also skilled enough to make a seasoned assassin genuinely afraid. Daisy realizes her instincts from back then were correct. Since returning to this body, she has not picked up a sword once, so it would have been incredibly dangerous if she had fought Lou immediately that day. Daisy then asks what the chances are that Lou's master is the client behind everything. Lou replies that it is hard to say because the master does not seem like the type to hire an assassination guild. However, one thing is certain, the master is definitely interested in the Weatherwoods family. Lou points out that just from knowing Daisy would come in advance, it does not seem like the master was lying. Daisy thinks that survival is Lou's top priority, so there is no reason for him to lie to her now. In that case, Daisy proposes a deal. They should share whatever information they each uncover. She asks what he thinks about that. Lou immediately asks why he should agree. Daisy suggests they meet once every week at this exact time and place. As they shake hands, she says they are helping each other out now. Then, as if suddenly remembering something important, Lou asks if she happens to have any tips for washing blankets. As she hangs the blankets on the rope, Daisy thinks that she set up surveillance yesterday, but did not sense anything unusual. Just as she expected, she realizes she will have to confront him directly. While Lou is watering the garden, she walks up to him and says she has something for him. Lou immediately replies that he refuses because he has already received more than enough confessions. As he holds the slip of paper she handed him, Daisy asks what he is talking about and calls him annoying. Lou says he will still read it since she went through the trouble of writing it, even though he does not believe in things like destined love with someone he just met. The note contains all the reasons why Daisy finds Lou suspicious. After reading it, Lou comments that her self-consciousness is quite remarkable and asks if she lost sleep over writing the note. Daisy becomes confused and asks what he means by self-consciousness. She points out that he was the one bragging about being blindingly beautiful, elegant, dignified, and wealthy, yet now he is talking about self-consciousness. As Lou casually slips the note into his pocket, he simply says, "Whatever." Daisy becomes annoyed and asks how he can just say whatever without even answering the note properly. Instead of responding, Lou hands her a flower pot and tells her to take it. Daisy asks what it is supposed to mean. Lou tells her to make a flower bloom inside it and says any kind of flower is fine, but she is not allowed to transplant one and must grow it from a seed. Daisy becomes confused and asks why she should suddenly do that. Lu explains that his identity is an extremely dizzying secret, so he cannot reveal it for free. Compared to that, making a flower bloom is a very modest price. He adds that if she does not want to do it, then she can simply pay him 500 gold instead. Daisy immediately says that is impossible even if she saved a maid's salary for 100 years, then reluctantly agrees to grow the flower and tells him to keep his word. As Lu taps her lightly on the head, he says he will look forward to it and wonders what kind of flower she will grow. Daisy threatens to break his hand if he touches her again. Suddenly, the head maid appears and says that dating co-workers is forbidden, Miss Daisy and Mr. Lu. Daisy immediately says it is a misunderstanding, but the head maid replies that they will see whether it really is or not. She warns Daisy to be careful because if she gets caught, her pay will be docked. Then she tells Daisy that is enough for now and orders her to go buy some ingredients. As Daisy walks through the market, she thinks that at this rate she will be the only one getting her pay docked. For now, she decides to stop investigating Lu because his suspiciousness is still only a hunch and he has not actually done anything yet. While walking through the market, she notices an old lady selling vegetables, but neither the vegetables nor the old lady herself look well at all. Daisy asks for 7 potatoes. The old lady happily says that finally a customer has arrived and thanks Daisy warmly while handing her the potatoes, asking her to come again. Daisy thinks that since Lu is a good cook, it should still be fine, even if the potatoes have sprouted a little. As she counts them, she realizes there is one extra and thinks she must have miscounted, so she decides to return it. But when she walks back, she sees a man standing near the old lady asking if she made some money today, because they are taking the merchant union fee she failed to pay last time. The old lady grabs onto him and says multiple times that she is just an old woman running a small business and has no intention of joining any union. Suddenly, the man hits her and shouts that if she cannot afford the fee, then she should close her shop and get out of their territory. Daisy immediately interrupts and asks if they all want to end up in the trash. The man notices her maid outfit and mockingly asks what this is supposed to be. Then he threatens Daisy by saying he can make it so she will never be able to walk down the street again. The old lady begins crying and begs Daisy to stop and run away quickly. Instead, Daisy suddenly kicks the man in the balls and punches him directly in the face. Everyone around them becomes terrified. The old lady thanks Daisy, and Daisy asks who those men are. The old lady explains that they originally started as a vigilante group during the Magic War, but after the war ended, they continued demanding fees under the excuse of maintaining market security. If someone refuses to pay, they create trouble and make their lives miserable, just like they did today. Daisy quietly responds that she sees. These guys seem quite vicious. According to the neighborhood merchants who heard about the old lady's incident, this has become a common thing. Daisy thinks it is strange, because the pubs she remembers were places where people gathered during the repeated wars with Mephisto, warm sanctuaries where people comforted each other and exchanged information. But now, in a place like this, they are acting like thugs under the disguise of a merchant union. Then she realizes the timing is perfect because she needs information about the artifact, so she decides she should use those guys. As she walks through the streets at night, she thinks that a secret midnight escape is one of the behaviors a maid should avoid, but it is still better than getting caught and scolded. Suddenly, she shivers and wonders if it is just her imagination or if the air really became colder. As she enters the bar, she notices that the 2 men are not there. She walks up to the counter and says she would like to order something, but the bartender immediately tells her that they are not open for business. Suddenly, someone approaches her and tells the bartender to wait because he recognizes her. The man says they must have met somewhere before and that she somehow looks familiar. Then he asks why she is not answering before suddenly realizing who she is. He calls her the crazy maid who smashed his brother's face. Daisy calmly replies by asking if he means the trash's brother, or perhaps the older piece of trash. Immediately, the bartender points a gun at her and asks if she is the woman. He says it is a shame because she is actually pretty decent looking, then threatens her to stay quiet unless she wants a hole in her head. Before he can even finish speaking, Daisy grabs the gun, lifts it up with one hand, smashes it against the bartender's head, and calmly asks if this is what he meant by a hole. Another man standing nearby raises his hand to slap her while shouting insults, but Daisy instantly slaps him across the face instead. As she stretches slightly to warm herself up, she casually asks who is next. Everyone in the room immediately loses the courage to move. One of them nervously asks who on earth she really is. Daisy points toward the picture hanging nearby and says that she is her. Everyone becomes confused. Daisy explains that she worked herself to death trying to save the world in the past, so after finally saving it, she cannot stand seeing scum like them running wild. Besides, she has something she absolutely needs to find within 3 years. In order to achieve that goal, she first needs to stay healthy. But if they keep collecting protection money and driving merchants into a corner, then ingredients will stop selling properly and their freshness will decline. If she eats food made from bad ingredients, she could get sick, or, if unlucky, even die. In short, if they continue collecting protection money, then she dies. So she asks, who wants to go first? One of the men desperately says that if she kills them, she will become an enemy of the buried rat and will never survive. Daisy becomes confused because she has never heard of the buried rat before. She asks what exactly the buried rat is. The man explains that it is an information guild that rapidly expanded after the Magic War. They secretly operate all over the 13 countries of the former Magic Alliance, including the Penrota Empire. He says they are ruthless bastards willing to use any means necessary for information or missions. They are so secretive that even their guildmaster remains completely unknown. Daisy thinks there is no way an organization like that would willingly work with crude people like these. But the man explains that their union is under the protection of the buried rat, and even shows a guild coin as proof, warning her that she is making a huge mistake. Suddenly, Daisy's partner appears from behind, grabs the coin, and says it looks like they are not lying. He explains that information guilds grow through trust and money, so even if this place looks shabby, a branch is still a branch and should not be touched carelessly. Daisy replies that this actually makes things even better, because someone's pawn is far more useful than a simple local thug. She suggests using these people to quietly take over the village while avoiding pursuit, while in return, she can obtain the information she wants. Her partner still warns that it is dangerous because the men could secretly report them. Daisy tells him to forget about that and instead asks what they are planning to use these men for. The terrified man stares at both of them, while they calmly tell him that he already knows what to do now. Her partner casually replies, of course, Maid, then admits that he never realized she could talk this much. Daisy calmly answers that she simply never saw the need to before. As the two men salute them, Daisy says that to commemorate the establishment of their new merchant coalition, they should proceed with their first official mission. Her partner asks if she is referring to the item she mentioned earlier, and Daisy replies that she means the Eye of Diane Ket. Her partner repeats the name in surprise. It is a relic of the great healer that is said to be capable of bringing the dead back to life. Daisy explains that rumors claim it is hidden somewhere in Midwintry, and asks if he happens to know anything about it. He replies that he does not, but considering the circumstances, it is certainly an interesting coincidence because a few days ago the master also asked about that same item. Daisy becomes confused and wonders why Lou would be interested in it. According to the assassin, they found a Midwintry travel guide inside Lou's bedroom, and there was a bookmark placed exactly on the page mentioning the Eye of Diane Ket. If that is true, then it only leads to one assumption. The reason why someone as obviously wealthy as Lou would go out of his way to work as a cook and gardener here at the Weatherwoods estate is because there might be information regarding the Eye of Diane Ket hidden there. Suddenly, Lou calls out to Miss Daisy and says that if she is going to stare at a man's face for that long, then she should at least leave a review. As he holds up a book, he mentions that he has planted the seeds. Daisy notices the title of the book and thinks that the Mystery Treasure Edition might contain clues regarding the eye. The head maid suddenly asks Lou if he did something to upset Miss Daisy. Lou casually replies that perhaps his only crime is being too handsome. The head maid turns to Daisy and says she understands the urge to constantly stare at Mr. Lou's face, but asks whether Daisy has finished cleaning the entrance, washing the laundry, checking the pantry, sweeping the hallways, wiping the windows, and replacing the light bulbs. She orders Daisy to hurry and get back to work, warning her that otherwise she will not receive any meals today. Daisy immediately thinks that, as expected, the head maid is the most cold-hearted woman in Midwintry. Then Lou asks Daisy whether she has decided on a name for the flower yet. Daisy asks why she would even do that. Lou then asks if she even knows what kind of seeds she planted. Daisy replies that it does not matter. Lou says that at this rate the flower will die before it even sprouts because plants thrive on affection, so she should give it a proper name. Then he casually adds that if she does not care enough to find out who he really is, then she does not have to bother. Later, while sitting in her room thinking about a name, Daisy suddenly decides she should get rid of those guys first before worrying about flowers. A few moments earlier, 2 assassins had entered her room and declared that from now on she answers to them. In response, Daisy immediately slams both of them to the ground. She cannot believe the buried rats would send assassins again, and even 2 of them this time. After defeating them, she throws both men straight out of the window and decides she should toss them over to the guy next door so they can at least be used as free labor. Suddenly, the head maid steps outside while smoking a cigarette and asks what on earth is going on and who those men are. Daisy casually replies that they are spies. The head maid asks if Daisy handled them all by herself, and then wonders if she killed them. Daisy's silence somehow makes the situation even scarier. At the same time, Daisy notices that the head maid did not show even the slightest hint of surprise after seeing assassins appear out of nowhere. She thinks that becoming the head maid of this estate must require nerves of steel. As the head maid extinguishes her cigarette, she tells Daisy to follow her for a moment. Daisy immediately worries that she is finally going to get fired just when she was finally getting used to maid work. However, the head maid calmly tells Miss Daisy that she means quite a lot to her, because Daisy is the first person to survive more than a week at the Weatherwoods estate. As a token of appreciation, and in hopes of asking for her continued service, the head maid asks if Daisy would like to meet the master himself. Of course, she adds that the choice is entirely Daisy's. The moment Daisy hears that she can meet Viscount Weatherwood, she becomes extremely shocked. If she becomes closely tied to the Weatherwoods family and is officially appointed as a maid for life, then that means permanent employment. Permanent employment means she will not get fired, even if she beats up spies. Grabbing the head maid's hands excitedly, Daisy immediately says that she is absolutely meeting him. The head maid quickly corrects her and asks her to answer politely instead. Daisy hurriedly changes her words and says that she will absolutely meet him. The head maid sighs and explains that she should say she would be honored to meet him instead. The head maid tells Daisy that she should say she will meet him, but before she goes in, she must first take a vow never to reveal any information about the master. The head maid explains that she will place the magic on Daisy herself and asks if that is acceptable. Daisy becomes surprised and thinks that the head maid can use magic too. Then the ritual begins. The head maid asks Daisy Fager if she agrees to never disclose the secrets of the Weatherwoods family, and Daisy answers that she agrees. The head maid then quietly points out that this is not Daisy's first vow, is it? She explains that a vow is engraved not on the body but on the soul, so even if the body changes, it never disappears. It is something that can never truly be erased, like a scar that follows someone for life. The head maid says she will not ask any further because Daisy should not even be able to answer anyway. Then she tells Daisy to come inside. As they walk deeper into the room, the head maid tells Daisy to come closer and show her respect, because this is Baron Grey Weatherwood. Daisy stares at the object before her while holding the flower pot and thinks that throughout her life, she has met all kinds of people. On the battlefield, a person crosses paths with countless fates they may only encounter once, but this is truly the first time she has ever seen an egg. According to the head maid, this egg is the heir personally entrusted by the master 4 years ago. Therefore, it is the rightful heir who inherited the title and fortune of the Roosevelt family left behind by Lady Enid, the Baroness. However, Count Rosewell is still alive and healthy, and because of the prenuptial contract, all the money remains tied up. Daisy begins wondering if that fortune is what the assassins are truly after. To anyone else, the house clearly looks completely broke, and if Count Rosewell really is involved, then he is a veteran who once fought alongside a sword saint. Even if his daughter is dead, there is no way he would quietly sit back if assassins were targeting the family fortune. Daisy then awkwardly asks whether the master is actually inside the egg. The head maid replies that probably he is. She says that when touching it, a pulse can be felt, and since the egg has continued growing over the years, perhaps the shell itself is acting as a barrier. Daisy immediately wonders what would happen if a giant chicken hatched out of it instead. The head maid instantly shouts at Miss Daisy in frustration. Daisy then thinks that the head maid's explanation is probably the most reasonable one. The Baron must truly be protected inside the shell. She begins wondering when he will finally wake up, because once he does, she absolutely plans to ask him to hire her as a lifetime maid. Then her attention shifts toward the flower pot in her hands. The sprout is already beginning to grow, but she still has not decided on a name for it. Daisy quietly wonders if someone like her, who may not even live another 3 years, truly has the right to give it a name at all. Suddenly, Lou calls out for Daisy and tells her to come eat lunch before they finish everything themselves. Daisy carries the flower pot into the kitchen and announces that she has finally picked a name, Rue. Lou immediately says that the name sounds suspiciously familiar and jokingly asks if she is finally admitting that she is his fan. Daisy quickly denies it and explains that she simply thought if she used his name, then he would probably take better care of the plant even after she is gone. Then she looks at the plant and asks Rue what he thinks of his new name and whether he likes it. She starts saying that the master will obviously take good care of him, but if he ever becomes thirsty over there, Lou suddenly interrupts and teasingly asks if she really likes the plant that much, enough to hug it and kiss it too. Daisy becomes furious and calls him a crazy cook. The head maid quickly steps in and tells them both to calm down and just eat already. Then she tells Mr. Rue to stop teasing Miss Daisy. After that, the head maid suddenly remembers something and asks Daisy if she could stop by the sewing room after she finishes eating. Daisy politely replies yes. Lou then tells Daisy that while she is out, she should buy ingredients other than potatoes too. If she wants Rue to grow properly, then Miss Daisy also needs to eat well and stay healthy herself. Daisy quietly agrees that he is right. Later, while walking through the market, Daisy notices two children playing together. One proudly declares that he is Supreme Commander Raffaello, while the other excitedly says that in that case, she will be Lady Natasha. Daisy thinks the streets are unusually noisy and wonders if some sort of festival is happening. Suddenly, she notices a newspaper with the title, 4th Anniversary Peace Festival Celebration, along with another line mentioning that Grand Duke Raffaello will be absent this year. Daisy freezes for a moment after seeing the name Raffaello. A congratulatory address for the 4th anniversary of Peace Day by Grand Duke Raffaello. As Daisy reads the newspaper, she quietly says that he has not changed at all from 4 years ago. She wonders whether he has been doing well. After her death, how was the world brought to its end? And does he resent her for leaving while defying orders? If he truly does resent her, would he ever forgive her? Daisy thinks that she wants to know the answers to those questions, and yet she remembers his words. Sometimes, Raffaello once told Andert that if he had a brother he had lost, it might have been him. Daisy quietly thinks that if he were ever to learn who she truly is, she fears he would deny every moment they once shared together. Because of that fear, she forced herself to turn away from him. Suddenly, a lady appears and asks if Daisy has finished all her errands. Daisy replies yes. The lady then suggests that if Daisy has time, she should also stop by the other shops. Daisy asks if it is because of the festival, and the lady happily replies that it is Peace Day after all, the day commemorating victory in the Magic War. However, the sales are not actually because of the festival itself. The truth is that there were some bastards who had been tormenting the merchants for years, but suddenly, all 4 years' worth of stolen stall fees were returned at once. As one of the merchants laughs cheerfully, the lady quietly leans closer and whispers that she heard some righteous soul gave those pub thugs the beating they deserved. To them, that kind of person is the real hero. Whoever it was, she would love to see their face at least once, because everyone would line up just to buy them a meal. She even mentions that the photographer's younger brother said he would take a splendid portrait and put it in a newspaper advertisement. Daisy awkwardly replies that she should get going because she still has business elsewhere. The lady warmly tells her to visit their shop again next time. As Daisy walks away, she wonders if all of this was truly the butler fellow's doing. Then again, she realizes that keeping the shops open during the daytime would naturally bring in more information. Suddenly, two men approach her and greet her as Captain Maid. Daisy becomes confused by the title. They ask her to first take a seat at the bar and explain that Butler Captain told them she would be coming today, so they prepared everything in advance. Daisy asks what exactly this is about, and they explain that a note was left for her last night instructing her to come there. As the bartender hands her a letter, he says he was told to deliver it directly to her. Daisy opens the letter and reads the message. Target confirmed. Exterminate all servants of the Weatherwoods estate. Retrieve all materials and objects within the estate related to Diane Kett. Beware of the assassin who will come later. Daisy immediately realizes this confirms it. The relic of Diane Kett is somewhere inside the Weatherwoods estate. She asks them what else they discovered. The men explain that exactly as Butler Captain instructed, they moved secretly through the shadows and gathered information. Daisy thinks that, although everything sounds useful, something has clearly gone very strange with these people. Still, she tells them they did well, but firmly orders them not to call her captain anymore. The men immediately reply by your command. Later, after returning to the estate, Daisy tells the head maid that the shopping is done. The head maid thanks her for her hard work. Daisy says she will go put everything in order, but the head maid suddenly stops her and apologizes for bringing up something strange so suddenly. Then she carefully asks whether Daisy would consider disguising herself as a man. Daisy is completely shocked. She immediately wonders if they somehow uncovered her past, but quickly dismisses the thought because there should be no way they could know. The head maid notices Daisy's reaction and apologizes for startling her, asking her to simply let the comment go in one ear and out the other if she dislikes it. Daisy quietly realizes that thankfully she has not actually been discovered after all. Then she asks why she would need to disguise herself in the first place. The headmaid explains that she was hoping Daisy might attend the noble council in the Viscount's place. Daisy becomes even more confused and asks why she would ever attend such a gathering. The headmaid explains that it is exactly because of the master. Their Viscount is currently a smooth little egg, so naturally he cannot attend himself. Suddenly, from behind them, Lou appears and says that he believes he just overheard something extremely interesting. Both Daisy and the headmaid become completely startled. Lou then says that if he heard correctly, the mysterious faceless master of Weatherwood is actually an egg, and asks them to please explain the details more thoroughly. Lou asks them to please tell him more about the story in greater detail. In response, the headmaid calmly says that she is not quite sure what he is talking about and claims he must have misheard them. According to her, the master was simply saying that he wanted to eat a smooth egg dish. Lou replies that such a dish must truly be a great secret if they are whispering about it behind the chef's back. Then he casually mentions that he stopped counting after making his 101st oath. Daisy immediately thinks about what kind of person he really is, because even she, after experiencing countless hardships and battles, has never met someone who has made that many vows. Lou then asks again if they finally feel like telling him the truth, otherwise he warns that he might cry again. Eventually, both Daisy and the headmaid bring him to see the master. As Lou touches the egg, he comments on the solid outer shell and its elegant curves. Then, without warning, he suddenly punches the egg. The headmaid is completely horrified and immediately shouts at Mr. Lou, asking what on earth he thinks he is doing. Lou calmly explains that unfortunately, this confirms the Viscount is not actually inside the egg. Even the headmaid, who Daisy considers the coldest woman in Midwintry, seems deeply shocked by those words. Daisy thinks that after spending all those years protecting the egg, while believing it contained the Viscount, the truth must feel completely devastating to the headmaid. Suddenly, the headmaid narrows her eyes and asks Lou where exactly he came from and under whom he learned magic. She says it should not even be possible for someone his age to reach such a level. Every time she performs interpretation magic, her vision turns white and she loses consciousness. She wonders whether that is simply because of lack of practice or because of something else entirely. Meanwhile, Lou casually remarks that he was worried for nothing, because mages are apparently no more than this. Daisy then asks Lou if he knows Diane checked, because earlier he referred to him as that guy. Lou teasingly asks if she is curious. Daisy immediately realizes from his reaction alone that the two definitely knew each other personally. But Diane checked supposedly died long before Daisy herself was even born, so the fact that Lou speaks about him like an acquaintance raises even more suspicions. Meanwhile, the headmaid quietly admits that she somehow does not feel comfortable sending Miss Daisy alone. Then she suddenly suggests that perhaps Daisy should get married instead. If someone remains by Daisy's side, then they would be able to control things more appropriately. The headmaid says it is a good idea, but if she herself became the wife, she would have to leave the mansion. Daisy immediately says there is no need to trouble the headmaid like that and refuses the idea. However, before anyone can continue, Lou suddenly declares that he will do it instead. Then, with complete confidence, he announces that he will become the Viscountess of Weatherwoods. It's going to be another long night, Grand Duke Raffaello. Between the Commander-in-Chief's injuries and the shortage of supplies, they have already reached their limit. One of the men says that, as expected, the plan to assassinate Mephisto is impossible. He asks who on earth would willingly volunteer for such a suicide mission. Another explains that if they can just draw Mephisto's attention away for a while, they might finally be able to secure supplies and medical treatment in the meantime. Suddenly, Andert walks into the room and immediately says that assassination is ridiculous. The Commander-in-Chief replies that he has no intention of sending any of his men alone into the jaws of death. Besides, the success rate is far too low, and he refuses to gamble on something with almost no chance of victory. One of the men stares at Andert and asks if he is even alive, because he looks more like a corpse that crawled out of the grave. Then he comments that the effects of the mercy herb must truly be incredible. Andert calmly says that there actually is a chance of winning if he is the one who goes. The moment Raffaello hears that, he immediately grabs Andert by the collar and shouts his name. He declares that he will never allow such a thing, and reminds him that it is a direct order. Raffaello says that Andert must stay by his side until the war finally ends. Suddenly, Andert attacks him. Grand Duke? Someone shouts in shock. In the present, Raffaello suddenly wakes up from the dream. Deschero immediately asks if he is all right, and wonders if it was that dream again, because his complexion looks terrible. Raffaello calmly replies that he is fine, and asks what business Deschero has. Deschero explains that urgent news has arrived from the capital. It is said that His Majesty the Emperor privately discussed the conquest of the north with 5 nobles. Raffaello asks if this is related to the mines in the northern Deus Mountains. Deschiro replies yes, and explains that the Emperor apparently intends to place Raffaello himself at the vanguard. Raffaello coldly remarks that His Majesty truly seems desperate to push him back onto the front lines. He then asks whether there are any other reports. Deschiro explains that about a month ago, a survivor was reportedly discovered on Queen Island. Her name is Birdie Lucian, approximately 170 centimeters tall with a slender build. However, the report was intercepted twice before finally reaching them on the 3rd attempt. Raffaello asks whether there was anything unusual enough to justify that level of interference. Deschiro replies that the woman is currently living in Midwintry and working as a maid. More importantly, they say she bears a striking resemblance to Sir Andert. Raffaello immediately dismisses it, saying it must simply be someone who resembles him. After all, Andert's only blood relative, his older sister, supposedly died during the Queen Island incident. Raffaello then orders Deschiro to filter out unreliable news before it ever reaches him again. Deschiro respectfully replies that it will be done. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Daisy is making her bed while thinking about the Eye of Diane Kett. She would rather have the Viscount, be the one to use it. At this rate, she may eventually have to secretly steal the relic herself in order to use it. Still, she feels relieved knowing the relic is already right in front of her. Daisy begins wondering whether the other relics are weapons too. Wide-range attack magic and healing magic are complete opposites, and the dream of extending one's lifespan has always been difficult and complicated. Suddenly, Lou walks into the room and asks Miss Daisy what she is thinking about before telling her to come outside because they are going somewhere. Daisy asks if this is another errand. As he leads her somewhere unfamiliar, she asks what this place is, and Lou replies that they should head inside first. The moment the door opens, a woman warmly welcomes them inside. Daisy asks what exactly this place is supposed to be, and Lou replies that it is for a successful debutante. Daisy immediately says she does not have any money, but Lou casually reassures her that it is fine because he is rich. He also explains that the head maid already gave permission, since he is the one paying for everything. Then he begins listing the order: a dress and suit for the ball and banquet, 2 sets of everyday clothes, a spring coat, 2 sets of hats and gloves, 2 sets of pajamas, 4 sets of socks and underwear, and 2 outfits for tea parties. Then he asks if all of it can be completed within 15 days. The lady becomes visibly shocked and apologizes, saying that such a large order would normally be impossible to finish in only 15 days. However, the moment she hears these clothes are for the Viscount and Viscountess of Weatherwoods, she immediately panics and calls for the manager. The manager rushes over in disbelief and repeats that the order is truly for the reclusive Viscount and Viscountess of Weatherwoods. He excitedly declares that they should leave everything to him, because this is a golden opportunity. Then he eagerly asks whether he should visit the mansion personally to take measurements. Lou quickly says there is no need for that, because the Viscountess is very busy, so she asked him to use this companion as a model, since they have similar height and skin tone. As Lou casually lifts Daisy's chin, Daisy immediately grabs him and drags him into a corner. Furious, she reminds him that he was the one who said he would become the Viscountess, so why are they taking measurements based on her size instead? Lou calmly explains that it is easier to use transformation magic when he has a base model to work from. He says he originally planned to transform Daisy to match his build instead, and asks if she hates that idea. Daisy immediately thinks that Andert's physique would definitely feel far more comfortable, and bluntly says yes, she hates it because Lou is too big in far too many ways. Lou innocently asks exactly which part of him is supposedly too big. Daisy calls him crazy, and tells him to forget about that and simply make the outfit for someone around 180 centimeters tall, with developed arm muscles and a thin waist. Lou cannot believe Daisy actually prefers such a puny body, and says he truly cannot understand her aesthetic sense at all. Meanwhile, the manager asks if they should begin the measurements, and wonders whether the Viscount's outfit should be fitted to this gentleman's build just like the Viscountess's. Another employee quietly comments that something suddenly feels different, though she cannot explain why. Then she politely asks them to come this way, so she can begin taking measurements. As she carefully examines both of them, she cannot stop admiring their appearances and comments on how wonderful their figures are. She enthusiastically suggests a soft silk dress that highlights the Viscountess's silhouette, or perhaps a bold style that reveals the shoulders, since that is currently fashionable. Then she suddenly pauses while looking at the Viscount's measurements and can only stare in amazement before declaring that they truly are a perfect pair. Daisy says she would rather go clean something instead because dressing up is far too exhausting. Lou casually asks if he should perhaps buy her some ice cream. Daisy immediately becomes suspicious and asks what exactly he is trying to make her do now. Lou replies that the stick and the carrot always go hand in hand, because otherwise there would be no reason to give treats to a dog during training. Daisy immediately asks if he is calling her a dog. Lou simply tells her that if she understands, then she should wait quietly under the shade nearby. As Daisy stands there alone, she realizes she has never actually been around this area before. Midwintry National Peace Memorial. She wonders if it is a cemetery established to honor the Allied forces. Then she remembers Lou telling her to wait quietly. Suddenly, she hears someone asking what she is looking for. As she slowly walks further ahead, memories from her past life suddenly begin flooding back. Someone desperately shouts for another person to pull themselves together because there are too many soldiers in Mephisto's legion, and they should give up and evacuate the civilians instead. Another voice angrily shouts back, asking what kind of nonsense that is before ordering them to quickly grab onto him. The wounded soldier weakly says he is already finished and begs someone to deliver his final goodbye to his mother. In response, Andert angrily shouts for him to stop talking nonsense because he can tell her himself once the war finally ends. But the soldier quietly replies that the war is already over. Daisy becomes confused and asks what he means. The wounded man tells her to look at the demon legion standing on the ridge in the distance, and then begs her not to stand there, doing nothing but to help move the wounded instead. Suddenly, Lou's voice cuts through the illusion and calmly says that there is no demon legion here anymore, and that it is time for her to come back now. Daisy quietly asks if it is really over. Lou gently replies yes, and tells her that nobody else is going to die anymore. Then he jokingly adds that the only thing dying right now is the ice cream he has been holding this entire time. As he pats her head, he softly tells her that they should go home now before hugging her. Later that night, Daisy suddenly wakes up in confusion and wonders where she is. Lou's voice immediately replies that the water is right beside her. Seeing him sitting there next to her makes Daisy realize that hearing his voice earlier was not a dream after all. She quietly wonders if her senses have become so dull that she can no longer distinguish reality from illusion. Daisy thanks him for helping her and says he saved her life. Lou replies that the melted ice cream would have loved hearing that thank you too. Daisy asks if he threw it away and says he should have eaten it himself instead. Lou replies that he would have loved to, but unfortunately he also had to carry someone all the way home. Daisy thinks he sounds incredibly patronizing, but she cannot even argue because he is technically right. Then she asks if he has been taking care of her this entire time. Lou replies that the servants did most of the work rather than him. Daisy becomes confused and asks what servants he means. Lou explains that he means the butler and the assassins, including the other trash Daisy dumped onto him earlier. He casually mentions that he already told the head maid Daisy would be late today and informed her that Miss Daisy buried someone again and required special education. Daisy suddenly asks Lou whether the real reason he came to Weatherwoods was because of Diane Cheat's artifact. Then she directly asks if he plans on stealing it from the Viscount. Lou calmly reminds her that he already said he would explain everything once the flower blooms. Daisy replies that she is only curious because he is clearly not a normal person either. Since she is so curious, Lou says he will at least tell her this much. As he slowly leans closer, he warns her not to fall for him because she will only end up hurting herself. Daisy immediately asks when he plans on stopping all that crazy nonsense. Lou replies that he will stop around the time Miss Daisy finally gives up on him. Then he asks whether experiences like what happened earlier occur often for her. Daisy replies that it was her first time having hallucinations, although the nightmares themselves started a few days ago. Lou then asks whether there was any painful incident recently that might have triggered both the nightmares and the hallucinations. Then, on the contrary, he asks if there was perhaps any joyful incident that temporarily made her forget about them. Daisy quietly thinks back on everything, but she cannot come up with any clear answer. Lou softly tells poor Miss Daisy that she cannot answer any of the questions he asks. Daisy replies that nothing like that really happened. Lou calmly says no, she simply has not realized it yet. Then he suggests they try some introspection. He tells Miss Daisy to close her eyes and think deeply about who she truly is. Daisy begins thinking to herself. She is Daisy Fager, a man who was once called Andert Fager, and even long before that, a woman who was once called Pocky. But can someone truly say they know her just by her name? A name is usually a gift crafted with a parent's affection. That affection gives a person a sense of responsibility over their own existence. That is why she chose Daisy, the most common and plain name in the Empire, to mask her secret identity. She wanted to ensure that even if she only lived for 3 more years, she would leave no trace behind on this land. She genuinely enjoyed this job as a maid secured through such a thoughtless name. Simply dusting things off and wiping windows until they shined gave her the comforting feeling that she could live as a normal member of society without having to slay demons or live as Andert. And yet, the nightmares and hallucinations still occasionally reared their heads. The sense of helplessness and loss she felt while watching her comrades fall still haunted her. But alongside that pain existed another feeling, the thrill of crushing evil, and the liberating rush that set her mind ablaze. At that moment, Daisy realizes something. She never truly wanted to deny the 14 years she spent living as Andert. Even though she resolved to live as Daisy now, she realizes she really is a hypocritical and wretched maid. Then she asks herself whether she truly feels no affection for Daisy at all. Suddenly, a woman nearby asks if this is the flower she picked, and comments that it fits spring perfectly, and looks very pretty too. Daisy quietly replies that she likes it because the name itself is pretty. In the end, she planted a daisy in the pot. It was never that she lacked affection for it. The self who chose to live as Andert, and the self who now lives as Daisy, are both equally her. Every moment of her life has simply stacked one upon another, and all of it together forms who she truly is. If that is the case, then the person she becomes tomorrow will surely be better than the person she is today. For the first time, Daisy finally understands who she really is. At that moment, the soul that once felt fragile enough to shatter suddenly becomes stronger and more solid than before. Then Lu suddenly appears and asks if this is her first time experiencing the state of unity between mind and body. Daisy becomes confused and asks what unity of mind and body even means. Lu casually explains that it is simply the process of ascending into a half-god, although Daisy has only just taken her first baby steps toward it. Daisy becomes shocked and asks if he means beings like Mephisto or Checked. Then she immediately wonders why it is happening to her. Lu replies that from the looks of it, she is already a very high-level swordmaster, and asks whether her master never taught her about the unity of mind and body. Daisy quietly thinks that technically everyone she met on the battlefield became her master, in one way or another. Then she suddenly pauses and asks how Lu even knows she is a swordmaster. Lu teasingly says it is a secret and admits that he really loves the expression she makes whenever she gets suspicious. He says he would love to tease her even more, but unfortunately the sun is already up. Suddenly, the head maid calls out to Miss Daisy and warns that if she is late one more time, her pay will be docked. Daisy immediately curses internally. Then the head maid announces that starting today, she will personally conduct noble etiquette lessons during Daisy's noon breaks. Daisy becomes devastated because now even her break time is gone. A few days later, Daisy realizes that self-reflection is truly a luxury only the wealthy can afford. As she looks at her transformed appearance, she admits that while transformation magic is not exactly considered high-tier magic, the result is genuinely beautiful. The head maid happily declares that it is perfect. Elegant blonde hair, blue eyes, soft clean hands untouched by labor, and an overall noble appearance without a single flaw. Daisy thanks Lu for transforming her exactly how she wanted, and reluctantly admits that he is not bad at all. The head maid praises her by saying she looks exactly like a refined member of the Weatherwoods family. Even though she is disguised as the former Viscount's niece, Daisy knows that on the inside she is still just a maid from the outskirts. The head maid reassures her that despite that, she does not look awkward at all. Daisy proudly replies that she is far from ordinary and is practically the definition of boldness itself. The head maid says being bold is good, but seriously warns her to be careful. Daisy confidently tells her to stop worrying, because if any problem arises, Lu will handle it like he always does. Suddenly, someone lightly hits Daisy on the head from behind. The beautiful young lady standing there is actually Lu in disguise. He tells Daisy that while she is technically his woman for the time being, she should not go around flirting with other men or women and should stay composed. Daisy immediately corrects him and says he means his man, not his woman. Lu ignores that and dramatically tells Darling to admit that this beauty alone is enough to take anyone's breath away. Since Daisy is currently neither fully a man nor a woman in appearance, Lu warns that she can charm both genders now, meaning she needs to be twice as careful. The identity Lu personally stole in order to act as Viscount Weatherwood's wife is Maureen Serene, the third daughter of a Viscount from the Northern Union. At first, even the head maid strongly opposed the idea and insisted they could not simply steal someone's identity, but Lu settled the issue by claiming it would not become a problem. Of course, Daisy still forced him to swear yet another oath, promising he would not cause any harm. Lou complains that every time Daisy becomes too lazy to persuade someone properly, she simply solves the issue by forcing another oath onto them. As they prepare to leave in the carriage, the head maid sincerely prays that they return safely without causing any major trouble, and asks them to please look after the Weatherwoods family. Daisy turns toward Lou and asks if he heard that properly, dear. Lou, still acting as Morian, immediately tells her not to call him dear, and instead use Morian, my love, because they are about to become the most passionate newlyweds the world has ever seen. As they sit inside the carriage, Daisy calls out to Lou, then quickly corrects herself and calls him Morian instead, before saying she has one question. Morian immediately replies that if she is going to ask something, then she should first get on her knees and say, "Please tell me, master." Without hesitation, Daisy kneels down and says, "Please tell me, master." Satisfied, Morian finally asks what she wants to know. Daisy asks whether, when someone becomes a demigod, the changes that occur to the body also apply to the soul. She explains that her lifespan being reduced to only 3 years was partly because her body died, but also because Mephisto's magic was powerful enough to crack even her soul. If becoming a demigod could heal the soul as well, then there would be no need to continue searching for Diane Kett's relic. Morian replies that she certainly has big dreams, and asks whether she truly believes she could become a demigod just because she tried hard enough. He points out that she accidentally unified her mind and body, so perhaps the later stages might come easily too. Then he teasingly asks if she wants to become the luckiest maid in the world, someone who lives out her full lifespan without effort. He admits she is surprisingly sharp, but warns her not to cling to empty hopes. Then he tells her to prepare herself because it is time to work. As the carriage enters the city, Daisy notices how smoothly everything is being handled and realizes that it was all Lou's doing. Suddenly, she falls into old memories. It has already been 9 years since the day Natasha, the greatest mage of the Allied forces, was formally named Crown Princess of the Penrota Empire. The investiture ceremony had been held in the middle of the war itself. Back then, Natasha asked Andert whether he remembered promising to give her any gift she wanted in celebration of her becoming Crown Princess. Andert replied that as long as it was not something impossible, like plucking a star from the sky, he would grant it. Natasha then boldly asked him to marry her, declaring that she would devote her entire life to protecting him. It became remembered as the day the Crown Princess openly proposed to a commoner in front of everyone. Daisy quietly smiles while recalling that Natasha truly was an interesting woman. She wonders what Natasha might be doing now. Suddenly, Morian asks Honey, what has her so lost in thought? Daisy immediately replies that it was nothing in particular. Morian accuses her of lying and says she was definitely thinking about another woman. Then he warns her to be careful because if she steps out of line, he might cut off something she would miss very much. Daisy silently realizes that this must be what married life feels like. As they walk together acting as a couple, everyone around them whispers about how beautiful the woman beside the Viscount is. A servant greets them while blushing after seeing Morian, and politely welcomes Lord and Lady Viscount Weatherwoods, before offering to move their luggage separately to the room. He explains that the banquet is already underway and asks whether he should escort them there. They both agree and enter the hall together. The moment they arrive, everyone immediately falls into shock. People whisper that Viscount Weatherwood supposedly never shows his face, while others marvel at how beautiful his wife is. Daisy quietly tells Morian that she is attracting everyone's attention. Morian casually replies that Daisy should stop complaining when she has such a beautiful wife, and then tells her to go speak with the nobles the same way the headmaid taught her. Daisy admits she never reviewed any of those lessons and cannot remember a single thing. Suddenly, a man approaches and directly asks whether Daisy truly is the Viscount of Weatherwoods. It is Count Rosabelle, the father-in-law of the previous Viscount Weatherwoods and also Daisy's former comrade from the battlefield. Daisy notices that his hair has turned slightly gray over the years, but his eyes remain exactly the same. Morian quickly grabs Daisy's arm and reminds her that she should greet him properly. Acting as the Viscount, Daisy politely confirms that he must be Count Rosabelle, and says she heard many stories of his valor from her aunt while growing up. Count Rosabelle becomes surprised and asks if Enoch truly talked about him. Daisy replies yes, and says he always sounded like a hero to her. Daisy quietly thinks that even now he still dotes on his daughter deeply, although she never realized that daughter was actually the former Viscountess. Count Rosabelle then asks about the lovely lady standing beside the Viscount. Morian elegantly introduces herself as Morian Serene, and says it is an honor to meet the famous commander of the Allied forces. Rosabelle politely returns the greeting, but pauses after hearing the surname Serene. Morian explains that she comes from the kingdom of Astrosa and that her birth father is Count Serene, a noble from the Northern Continental Union. Rosabelle comments that she truly came a long way, from the church all the way to here. Morian lovingly replies that, for the sake of her beloved husband, she could travel even farther. Rosabelle quietly repeats the word husband. Daisy suddenly remembers exactly what kind of man Rosabelle used to be. He was the type who would never tolerate even the slightest mistake during training. Even among close comrades, strict hierarchy always existed. If someone failed to salute properly, they would immediately be punished. A complete hardliner. Considering that Daisy is currently pretending to be the nephew of the son-in-law, who drained away his daughter's fortune and then did not even bother informing him about the marriage, Daisy realizes it makes perfect sense that Rosabelle would feel offended. Acting as the Viscount, Daisy apologizes and explains that there were unavoidable circumstances. Internally, Daisy understands Rosabelle's anger, but at the same time thinks it is not even her fault, since she is not the real Viscount anyway. Rosabelle eventually says that despite everything, he is relieved the Weatherwoods family line has not completely died out. However, not everyone will understand the circumstances, so they should both be careful. Daisy and Morian thank him for the advice as he walks away. Once he leaves, Daisy quietly asks Morian whether she should continue introducing herself to more people. Morian replies no, and says they should simply return to the room because eventually the nobles will come searching for them on their own. Daisy becomes surprised that people would willingly come to them instead. Just as Morian predicted, numerous nobles soon approach them, each saying it is truly a pleasure to finally meet Viscount Weatherwoods and apologizing for approaching so suddenly because they very much wish to meet him. Later that night, after finally returning to the room, Daisy collapses onto the bed and thinks that a maid's life is truly an endless chain of exhaustion. Daisy says she is going to sleep for a little while and asks Morian to wake her before the banquet resumes. Morian, while calmly drinking tea nearby, replies that everything else can be left to Lou while Daisy enjoys a peaceful nap. However, as Daisy begins falling asleep, she suddenly notices that her arm feels strangely heavy. The next moment, it is already morning. Daisy opens her eyes only to find both of them lying extremely close together in bed while staring directly at each other. "Honey, are you awake?" Morian asks. Completely shocked, Daisy immediately jumps off the bed. Morian calmly tells her not to make such a fuss because she is ruining the immersion of their act. Then she casually threatens that if Daisy keeps reacting like this, she might throw her off the airship. Daisy immediately says that is going way too far. Morian asks why, because they are supposed to be a newlywed couple after all. Daisy wonders what kind of logic that even is. Morian then teasingly asks whether their dear Daisy has started speaking in that blunt, clipped way again, because she is embarrassed. She admits it is annoying seeing Daisy act like that while wearing a man's face, but for now she will tolerate it, since Daisy is her beloved Viscount. Then Morian tells Daisy to hurry up and get out of bed. She hands Daisy a paper and tells her to check today's schedule. Daisy becomes confused and asks if there was really something like this. Looking at the paper, she realizes the entire schedule is nothing but socializing and leisure activities. Morian explains that this is exactly what noble work is, investing time and effort into building relationships. Daisy then decides that if that is the case, she cannot simply sit around doing nothing either. A little later, Daisy asks if Morian is leaving already. As Morian gets dressed, she replies yes, because there is something she needs to investigate. The client who sent assassins after the Weatherwoods family appears to be someone within the Noble Council. As proof, after Daisy publicly announced attendance at the council, all assassin activity suddenly stopped completely. Daisy wonders if it is because there is no longer any need to send assassins now that they can simply meet directly. Morian praises Daisy by saying their honey is surprisingly smart. Daisy immediately asks what that is supposed to mean. Suddenly, Morian leans forward and kisses Daisy on the cheek before saying she simply means Daisy should have a safe trip. Then, Morian casually says she will rest a bit longer and wishes Daisy a nice day. Daisy immediately blushes furiously and internally curses that crazy bastard for pressing his lips against another woman's face. That kind of acting has absolutely nothing to do with the mission. While walking outside later, Daisy runs into two young men who greet Viscount Weatherwoods. One introduces himself as Yegersi and explains that his father owns a newspaper company. The other introduces himself as Volquin and says his father is a bank president. Daisy awkwardly responds by calling them Yequin and Volkashi before greeting them. The two quickly correct her by repeating that their names are actually Yegersi and Volquin. Daisy apologizes again while somehow making the names even worse by calling them Yakirsi and Volgwin instead. Despite that, Daisy casually suggests they become friends and says they can simply speak comfortably with each other. The two become shocked because they are merely upper-class commoners and not actual nobles. Suddenly, Daisy notices loud commotion nearby and asks whether something exciting is happening. One of them explains that the event is about to begin and asks whether Daisy would like to watch it with them. Daisy initially says another time because she is in a hurry, but the two continue insisting she should come. As they approach, people excitedly shout that this is the famous Berkeley-Grayton succession battle and cannot be missed. Daisy immediately recognizes the name. The Berkeley-Grayton ducal house are the guardians of the Penrhoda imperial family and have protected the empire throughout history. The position of head of the family is always inherited by the strongest individual, regardless of bloodline, age, or gender. However, no matter how talented someone is, they still must be acknowledged by both the previous family head and the emperor. The current Grand Duke is Sword St. Zaharke Berkeley-Grayton. The young man fighting with long silver hair is Jin Berkeley-Grayton, the second in line for succession, while his opponent is Oster, the fifth in line. As the duel unfolds, the spectators marvel at Jin's swordsmanship, calling him a true prodigy for reaching such a level at his age. Daisy silently observes his eyes and realizes something unsettling. Jin is literally someone possessed by the sword itself, the type who lives by the sword and would gladly die by it too. Even though people like that are completely insane, they are at least straightforward and do not rely on cheap tricks. Suddenly, Daisy recalls Lu mentioning that Jin is the head of the Assassination Guild clan. According to Lu, if Jin dies, then clan itself will completely collapse, and the assassins targeting Daisy will disappear as well. However, Lu also explained that carrying out an assassination during the Noble Council would be difficult, so instead, Daisy should try stripping Jin of his succession rights. If she succeeds, Lu promised to provide a clue regarding the Diane Ket artifact, along with information about Master Lu himself. Daisy quietly wonders what someone as monstrously talented as Jin could possibly be lacking that would lead him to run an assassination guild in the first place. At the same time, she has absolutely no idea how she is supposed to strip someone like him of his succession rights. Suddenly, Jin loudly shouts for his opponent to come at him again and asks whether he truly intends to end the battle like this without shame. Daisy suddenly becomes confused because it feels as though the sword itself is speaking. Then realization strikes her. Jin has already reached the first stage of mind and body unity, allowing him to hear the voice of the sword itself. After the duel ends, Jin notices Daisy standing nearby and immediately walks toward the Viscount. Politely apologizing for the sudden interruption upon their first meeting, Jin introduces himself as Jin Berkeley-Grayton and asks if he could spare a moment of Daisy's time. Jin Berkeley-Grayton asks if the Viscount could spare her a moment. Daisy immediately thinks that this is a terrible time for something like this. In situations like these, she knows she needs to act like a sly snake. So pretending to misunderstand Jin's intentions completely, the Viscount politely apologizes and says that unfortunately he is already a married man. The moment those words leave his mouth, everyone nearby falls into complete shock. The Viscount calmly continues by saying he will pray that Miss Jin Berkeley-Grayton finds another wonderful match in the future. As the Viscount casually takes a sip of his drink, one of the men nearby comments that it was quite a gentlemanly rejection. Another immediately disagrees and asks how anyone could calmly drink after dropping such an unbelievable bombshell. The Viscount innocently asks whether Jin was not approaching him because she fell for his looks. The two men burst out laughing and explain that it would never happen. Perhaps desperate noble ladies searching for marriage might react that way, but Jin is completely different. She is famously known for caring about nothing except swords. Daisy quietly realizes they actually make a valid point, because earlier, Jin absolutely looked like someone who wanted to fight rather than flirt, which only makes the entire situation even more suspicious. According to the information from that butler fellow, Jin is secretly the master of clan. It is already strange enough for a sword-obsessed maniac to run an assassination guild, but openly approaching a target while attracting this much attention must mean she definitely has some kind of ulterior motive. While Daisy is deep in thought, one of the men asks Gray what he is thinking about. Daisy quietly decides that, since things have already turned out like this, she has no choice anymore. She says she just had an interesting thought and realizes she will simply have to become the bait herself. Since that day, Daisy spent her days hanging around with Yegersy and Volquin, while spending her nights locked inside the cabin playing cards with Lu. But despite appearances, she was definitely not slacking off. In fact, she successfully gathered 3 important pieces of information. First, Jin cannot become the Duke of the Berkeley-Grayton family, because there exists another genius named Garrosh, a monster Jin has never managed to defeat even once. Second, Yegersi studied abroad in the allied theocracy of the northern continent where the Serenia family resides. Through Yegersi's connections, Daisy may be able to uncover why Lu specifically chose to steal the identity of Morian Serenie. And finally, when Daisy casually asked about the artifact of Diane's sect, the reaction she received clearly suggested the person knew something about it. To cover things up, Daisy simply claimed her wife enjoys stories about treasures. One of the men immediately warns Gray to abandon that line of thinking, because recently there have been rumors that certain VIPs are searching for the artifact as well. Daisy quietly realizes that her suspicions were probably correct all along. The true client may actually be somewhere aboard this airship. Since Daisy has already stirred things up this much, whether it is Jin or the mysterious client, it should only be a matter of time before someone finally comes looking for a fight. While sitting together later, the men explain that everyone aboard has become obsessed with betting on the Viscount. Daisy becomes confused because people have been acting strangely toward her all morning, but she genuinely does not understand why everyone is so fixated on her. The Viscount jokingly wonders if his handsome face is somehow the problem. One of the men immediately says Gray truly has no talent for jokes. Then Volquin asks if Yegersi is ready before they begin explaining the situation. Yegersi points out that only nobles and upper-class citizens were allowed aboard the Black Legal airship. However, among them are nobles with less influence than wealthy commoners, and commoners more successful than actual nobles. The reason for those invisible differences depends on many things. Did they fight during the Magic War? Or hide quietly during it? Are they part of the pro-Emperor faction that supports the Emperor? Or the pro-Genael faction, led by Archduke Raffaello? A family's prestige is determined entirely by which side they belong to, naturally creating invisible walls between everyone. Then, Yegersi presents a quiz. Exactly where does Mr. Gray Weatherwood belong? Daisy quickly realizes the answer is extremely ambiguous. Yegersi excitedly says exactly. The Weatherwoods family fought during the war yet gained no rewards afterward. They also stopped all outside activity after the war ended, making it impossible to determine whether they support the Emperor or Archduke Raffaello. On top of that, the Viscount casually spends time with upper-class youths instead of nobles. Because of all this, everyone aboard cannot help but become curious about Gray Weatherwood. Daisy quietly realizes that she unintentionally created the perfect situation to use herself as bait. However, none of it matters unless Jin or the true client actually takes the bait. While playing cards later, someone comments that the Viscount seems like the type to play games very cautiously. Daisy quietly recalls that from the moment she first heard the name Berkeley Grayton from that butler fellow, she already suspected something like this might happen eventually. Suddenly, a man approaches and politely introduces himself as Duke Zeharki Berkeley Grayton. As Daisy calmly places her cards down, she introduces herself as Gray Weatherwood. The moment their hands meet in a handshake, Daisy immediately remembers him, another master who once taught her the sword. Another comrade with whom she crossed the boundaries between life and death on countless battlefields. Acting naturally, Gray politely says it is an honor to meet the Sword Saint, but deep inside Daisy already knew that one day she would inevitably reunite with him. Sword Saint Zeharki Berkeley Grayton. There was once a time when Daisy learned the sword from him, and many other monsters like him, crossing the line between life and death alongside countless comrades. Those memories remain so vivid and precious that even a reunion like this feels welcome. Zeharki politely asks Viscount Weatherwoods if it would not trouble him to spare a moment. The Viscount replies that certainly he can, though speaking in a place like this might prove difficult. Daisy quietly thinks that the Sword Saint is the greatest swordmaster she knows. It is only natural that some of her skills would fail to see through him completely. And yet, despite that, she can still feel it. A faint sliver of killing intent hidden beneath his perfectly sharpened gaze. At that moment, Daisy realizes the truth. The Sword Saint himself is the client. Zeharki calmly explains that Jin wishes to have a practice duel with the Viscount and asks if he might instruct his lacking daughter. Daisy immediately understands everything. Duke Berkeley Grayton, the Emperor's sword, is forbidden by treaty with the imperial family from privately commanding an organization. However, Jin is not yet Duke. That means she can easily be used as a puppet to operate Klon instead. The Sword Saint himself was the true client and the real master behind Klon all along. Internally, Daisy realizes this is the worst possible hand she could have drawn. The two young men accompanying Gray immediately protest and tell the Duke that he must be mistaken because Gray is not even a swordsman. They point toward his soft hands as proof. The Duke calmly asks the Viscount whether he would say the same himself. Is the duel truly difficult because he is not a swordsman? The Viscount replies that if the Duke grants him two conditions, then he will accept the request. First, the practice duel must be held with only the two of them present and no spectators. Second, if Jin loses, she must surrender her right of succession. Daisy calmly explains that regardless of who loses, neither of them should display such an unseemly side before others. And if by some chance an heir defeated by a novice like him were to become duke, it would be difficult to watch. Everyone around them becomes shocked. Ziharke then asks Jin Berkeley Grayton whether she accepts the proposed wager. Jin immediately replies yes and says the Viscount's demands are completely reasonable, so she accepts the conditions. Ziharke then suggests they move elsewhere as the Viscount requested. Internally, Daisy realizes once again that the Sword Saint truly is not a man anyone can ever afford to underestimate. As they prepare to leave, the Duke remarks that since the duel was arranged so suddenly, the Viscount probably has no sword at hand. Therefore, he offers to lend him one of his own swords. While handing over the blade, Ziharke suddenly asks whether they might have met somewhere before. Daisy immediately replies that such a thing is impossible because this is their first meeting. As Daisy grips the sword, she quietly wonders what exactly the Sword Saint is plotting by handing over his own weapon. The situation gives her a very bad feeling, making her decide it is best not to reveal too much. As the duel begins, Jin calmly says they should keep things simple. If the Viscount can force her to draw her sword, then the victory will belong to him. However, if she draws her blade and forces him to swing twice, then she will consider that his loss. Jin then charges forward confidently, declaring that no matter who stands before her, she will sweep them aside. Daisy quietly thinks that Jin truly does not intend to refuse the Viscount's kindness. As the fight begins, Daisy notices Jin glaring at her with genuine killing intent. Still, Daisy calmly deflects her attacks. She endured the Sword Saint's blade dozens, even hundreds of times in the past. Compared to that, Jin's attacks are still lacking. In a single instant, Daisy strikes Jin's sword away and points her blade toward her head. Calmly, Daisy says that next she would target both of Jin's ankles, and after that, her wrists. If Jin took those blows, then for an entire month she would not be able to walk without crutches, or even hold a pen properly. Hearing that, Jin quietly lowers her head and admits defeat. As promised, she agrees to surrender her place as heir. Daisy quietly thinks that at least this settles the butler assassin's request for now. Before Daisy leaves, Jin politely asks if she may ask one question. Daisy replies that she may ask two. Jin then asks what someone must do to reach such a level at such a young age. Daisy immediately realizes that Jin truly does love the sword more than anything. Daisy would not have minded crossing blades once or twice more to guide her, but she cannot. Daisy became strong faster than others only because she experienced things no ordinary person ever should, and even now, she continues paying the price for it. Jin quietly asks what that price might be. Daisy simply replies that it is a secret because she obviously cannot explain that she died once and returned to life afterward. Jin then boldly asks whether the Viscount would accept her as a disciple. As Daisy walks away afterward, she quietly wonders about the nerve of that girl. What exactly is she supposed to do with the Sword Saint's daughter? With the little time she has left, Daisy feels she should simply spend her days peacefully getting along with Lu instead. But the moment Daisy returns, she sees Lu standing there in the form of a beautiful woman using his original appearance. Smiling brightly, Lu casually says, "You're late, darling." "You're late, darling," says Lu. Daisy immediately asks what kind of situation this is supposed to be, and questions who the noble woman lying in someone else's bed is. Then she asks if the woman is dead. Lu casually replies that not everyone in the world is like Miss Daisy. Daisy then asks if the two of them were so passionate that they ended up knocking each other unconscious. Lu immediately asks if she is implying that he committed adultery. Daisy says she is only joking, but quickly realizes something. Unless Lu had been cornered into a dangerous situation, there would be no reason for him to undo his transformation magic. Then Daisy remembers something Natasha once told her. While using transformation magic, a person cannot cast any other magic at the same time. In other words, the fact that Lu canceled his transformation means this woman forced him into a situation where he had no choice but to use magic. Daisy immediately wonders if it was an assassination attempt. Lu calmly replies that she is correct. Daisy then asks if the woman was sent by the Sword Saint, but quickly stops herself because it is still too early to jump to conclusions. Instead, she asks what the reason behind the attack was. Lu casually says who knows, and suggests they ask the woman directly, which is exactly why he personally brought her into his room. Suddenly, Lu begins performing magic. Daisy immediately recognizes it as mind control magic. Once again, that guy Lu is casually using forbidden magic, just like he does with oaths. Since Miss Daisy seems so curious, Lu tells her she can ask the questions herself. As the woman slowly regains consciousness, Daisy asks why she tried to attack Lu, or rather the Viscountess, and demands to know her objective. The woman replies that she was not targeting the Viscountess at all. Instead, she was assigned to monitor the noble assembly. Daisy becomes confused and asks if she is the only observer. The woman replies no, and reveals there are 12 observers in total. Daisy asks if their role is only to monitor the noble assembly. The woman replies no, their true objective is the villa itself, for terrorism. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Jin knocks on a door and the Duke tells her to enter. The Duke comments that Jin's expression is very different from what he expected. Jin quietly hands over her sword and says she has no excuse for her failure. The Duke asks her how skilled the Viscount truly was. He wants to know whether the swordsmanship resembled a familiar style she recognized or something completely unfamiliar she had never encountered before. Jin lowers her head and replies that since she was defeated as promised, she will relinquish her succession rights and leave the family. The Duke calmly reminds her that he is still the head of the house, so regardless of the promise, whether she leaves the family or not will only be decided after she answers his question. He asks once again what the Viscount's swordsmanship was like. Jin quietly replies that she does not know because the Viscount never even drew his sword. The Duke becomes shocked and asks if she lost despite the Viscount never unsheathing his blade. Internally, he realizes Jin does not appear to be lying. Among the heirs, Jin is one of the most obedient. She is also objective enough to understand that she can never compare to Garrosh. That very mindset is what made her suitable to become Klon's master, as well as a child constantly desperate to earn merit. And yet, despite all of that, Jin is still avoiding the question. The Duke realizes there must have been something very unusual between the two of them. Eventually, he simply orders Jin to continue her training. The sword itself appears completely normal. Yet whenever a true swordsman holds a blade, traces should always remain behind. As the Duke stands up, he quietly says that in order to obtain the artifact, the thing that must truly be examined is not the Weatherwoods estate itself, but the Viscount of Weatherwoods personally. Especially that strange sense of familiarity. It is a completely paradoxical feeling, yet no other words come to mind. One thing is certain. He has a strong premonition that the Viscount must not be killed just yet. Of course, he has no intention of delaying things for very long. Diane Chek's artifact must eventually become his. Then the Duke calls out to Jin again. She immediately responds, "Yes, my lord." The Duke tells her that if she truly wishes to leave the family, he will not stop her because he trusts she made the decision